Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Planet Tyro for a very special review. I'm here with my buddy with the most, the Katface Killah. Oh boy, welcome back.
Oh shit, that sounded like so professional coming in.
Thank you. We've been doing this for a long time, son, so you know, we're on that level. And we're going to be speaking about, guys, a very special title that is making a glorious return, and for some reason, I guess some of you guys have requested it. We've covered a lot of retro stuff, and now was the perfect time for us to get into it, because unbeknownst to me, this is one of the Katface Killah's favorites.
Well, childhood favorites.
Well, let's see how it goes when we revisit it, because guys, we're going to be talking about that samurai with the coolest name of all time, Samurai Jack. Samurai Jack. So guys, Samurai Jack, if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock, it is a highly stylized action animated series that ran on Cartoon Network for 4 seasons, for 4 years. It has a super cult following. Recently, it's been announced it is coming back for a 5th and final season. It was animated and created by am I saying this guy's right there? Gendy Tartakovsky. He's Russian, I'm sure I messed up his name, who I didn't even know this animator actually animated and created a series I think I love even more than Samurai Jack.
Oh, which one's that? Because he's done a few.
He has. I'm talking about Dexter's Laboratory.
Oh man, I love that. I fucking love Dexter's Laboratory too.
Dexter's Laboratory was my favorite cartoon when I was growing. One of my favorite cartoons. So funny, so innovative as well. It seemed so simple, but it was so much fun. And only through research after watching Samurai Jack all these years later, I realized this is the same guy, which gives me even more respect for this guy. And on top of that, he did do, I think he did Star Wars, the Clone Wars, the original series that people have really gone on and on about how great it is. Not that 3D CGI Clone Wars series that people said it was not very good.
Oh, okay, poor Star Wars, man.
I don't know if you saw that or not.
I'm not a big Star Wars guy, so it doesn't cover my fandom very much.
So what I want to do to start this off, guys, I want to know, for the purposes of this discussion, if you haven't watched Samurai Jack, we're going to get into spoilers. We're going to be talking about it pretty much in detail, and we're going to talk about our past with Samurai Jack, because both of us have a past when the show originally aired, but recently we've watched the series all over again from scratch this year, so we have our own new, fresh 2016 perspective, which we're going to be judging on the show, which I think is very interesting, because I always love judging shows to see how much they hold up. We don't do it often, especially on older shows, but for Samurai Jack, it was appropriate. It's coming back, and you know, we're going to ask the question, does it still hold up, and what do we think of it? But I do want to hear your opinion, Katface, because you did say it was a childhood favorite of yours, and I have a little bit of a darker story with Samurai Jack, but I do want to hear. I want you to go first and explain your introduction to Samurai Jack, what you think, what you thought about it back then, before we speak about our little revisit recently.
Okay, that's fine with me. I mean, coming into this, you first asked me if I wanted to do Samurai Jack. I said yes, most definitely. This is a title I wanted to talk about after I was done with my manga and anime to-do list. And it's because this aired when I was a young teenager, I think during the Cartoon Network boom, when they had their best stuff, or at least what millennials would claim is their best run during that time period. And I really liked Samurai Jack when it came out. I watched it with my parents every once in a while, watched it on my own. It was something that was episodic that I could enjoy, very stylistic, phenomenal voice acting. In fact, I want to touch up on that a little bit later. And it's just, as a whole, a simple story, an innovative story, I would say. It's not like super deep or original. Well, I would say it's more original than not, but it's not like super deep or anything. But it's not something you hear about a whole lot. You know, the storyline is some kind of ancient evil awakens in feudal Japan. It gets banished, but gets released, and the protagonist, who later becomes Samurai Jack, fights him, and he's about to defeat him, and the guy tricks him and throws him into time. He throws him into the future through a time hole, which again I want to touch up on this later on. But that's sort of premise. I think when it comes to that kind of time traveling and stuff, I think more like backwards towards the 40s and 50s of comics. You know what I mean? When there was a lot of that kind of time traveling, not so much where we are and have been the last 20 or so years. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So that was kind of neat, kind of a nice throwback to that. But overall, I mean, I had a lot of fond memories of Samurai Jack. And, when we came into this, I wanted to see, is this because of the age I was at when I watched it? You know what I mean? And I would have to say...
well, don't spoil it yet. We'll get to that.
Okay, no spoilers yet.
But you can understand why you enjoyed it, I guess, is kind of what you're saying without saying.
Yeah, I would say that a lot of stuff I enjoyed about it, I still enjoy. I don't know if I enjoy it to the same degree, but...
But you were worried about the nostalgia factor. Am I just, loving this because of nostalgia is kind of what you're saying? Is that right?
Yeah, that was a big concern of mine.
Yeah. Well, my story about Samurai Jack isn't as pleasant as yours, man. When Samurai Jack came on in the UK, it was kind of released globally at the same time. I know there was no big time difference. It came on in the 2000s. The internet was around at that time, so there was no big divergence of when it was released over here. When I saw Samurai Jack, the first time I saw it, I thought to myself, this looks okay. Now, I was really getting into anime at this time. And when I saw Cartoon Network having a samurai show, I thought to myself, this looks like it's trying to be too cool. And when I watched Samurai Jack back on its original run, honestly, I'm going to let me bring a little allegory, like a metaphor. Samurai Jack reminds me of that cool kid in school that dresses cool, that looks cool, that sounds cool. But when you look at him, you just feel like he's a phony. Like, I always looked at Samurai Jack, the show, and just thought like, it's trying way too hard. I would watch the show, there would be hardly any talking, and I'd be like, why are you pretending to be so Japanese and so cool? You're not cool. Why is Cartoon Network trying to force this cool shit on me? It kind of irritated me.
Let me ask you, at this point, had you watched a lot of anime? Because that's like the exact opposite of anime from my experience.
Yeah, no, I was watching Dragon Ball Z. This is real Japanese shit. I'm watching cartoon, this American trying to be...
Spend the entire episode talking.
No, but this was monologuing in my head. I wasn't saying this out loud. But I would sit there, my Nuance, and me and Nuance will be in the same house. This is one of her favorite shows of all time. She's been a diehard fan from day one. I would sit there and watch the show, and there would be hardly any talking, and all this pretentious. I'm going to use the word pretentious in the past, not for now, but pretentious split screening. And I just thought to myself, I was bored, and it was a bit of low attention on my end. It was a bit of being very pessimistic and very cynical, and just honestly, and I will say this though, believe it or not, I said to myself, the show looks cool. I would say it does look cool, the action's okay, but I just honestly, I thought that in a nutshell, it was trying too hard. Now, ironically, when I use that metaphor of saying I felt Samurai Jack was that kid was too cool for school, yeah, but watching it now, and we're going to move forward to what we think kind of now. Watching it now, it is that metaphor, but it's like when you finally talk to that kid and when you finally hang around that kid, you find that, you know what, he's actually kind of fucking cool, actually.
You know what, the best way I could describe it is you look at some kid at school, and he's cool and everybody likes it or whatever, and he has his own style and seems cool and everything, right? Yeah. And the thing is, like, you think he's trying too hard, but then you get to know him, and that's just who he is. Like, he ain't even trying.
Exactly. And it's a bit of a spoiler, but I have to say, what I will say is I had the same problem with Avatar The Last Airbender. I said this on the Avatar review. I prejudged it. I was so into anime. I did not want to watch anything that the Americans were doing that were stylized or painted. I just thought it was kind of lackluster. But even in saying that, and we're going to move on to this rewatch we both just had, watching it now, I was understanding why the show frustrated me, because to be honest with you, this is a very ambitious show on Cartoon Network. They had nothing else really like this, and it took its elements very seriously to the point where I was like, you know what? This show was kind of too good for Cartoon Network. They were too authentic. I remember watching it thinking, man, you're trying way too hard. And it did, but again, watching it now as an adult and watching the interviews and hearing them, they did it with a lot of heart, with a lot of honest emotion, and it's very earnest, and they actually did it. But I can see why it frustrated me, and honestly, I can see why I was bored by it, and a lot of it is me being a fucking anime snob. Wink, wink. But, anyway, that's my thoughts. I really didn't like it in the beginning. I didn't give it a chance. That's what I will say. It's not like I didn't like it. I didn't really sit down and give it a real good chance. And I'm glad I watched it again because this was a show that I felt was somewhat overhyped. And now watching it, I will say honestly, as a lover of animation, as a fan of animation, I respect the fact that they did something completely different. I respect that they did something very highly stylized. And I actually respect that they actually paid homage to the culture that it was using as a basis for storytelling and art and stuff like that. And I honestly, watching it 16 years later now, I have to say, man, I'm impressed. And they did a good job overall. But that doesn't mean it's a perfect show. I just will admit right now, for any of you guys I'm pissing off listening to this, I prejudged the show. I've rewatched it now. And I have a very new opinion of the show. So I don't know how funny this story sounded to you, old boy, but that's my story. That's my history with Samurai Jack.
Very speckled one, huh? Samurai Jack, looking back at it, I mean, coming into this, especially since we've already clocked a few years doing what we're doing and everything, I wanted to pay attention to a few things. And it was how did the story hold up? How did the animation, the artwork, the style hold up? How did the voice acting hold up? And, overall, how much did I enjoy it?
Go into bits and pieces. You break it down. I'll follow you up. You start with the categories and I'll follow you up.
I think we both agree. The art style, very unique, I don't want to even say flashy. It's its own thing, and it's in its own way, its simplicity, a lot of asymmetricalness. It still is beautiful, and I really like it. I enjoy it, and I don't want to see copycats of it, but when I think Samurai Jack, the artwork really sticks out to me, and it's a type of artwork that blends well with the type of action and storytelling they enjoy to use in Samurai Jack.
You saying that, it reminded me, and sorry to cut you there, it reminded me of when you see these children's books, there's the kind of fairy tale books, the art reminds me of that. The way it's drawn, it looks like moving paper. It's very sharp, as you said, very symmetrical, very shapy. The way that they animate the art with the cut out dragons and the landscapes, and even though it's set in the future, they kind of meld a lot of the kind of ancient stuff with futuristic robot stuff, and just the style, and it reminds me of a fairy tale book, a very oriental fairy tale book, and seeing that in a moving animation form is very unique for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it's not only that they stick to just that. I mean, they experiment a little bit too, like I think it was Jack in the Haunted House, or like Jack and the Ghost or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's a kind of a traditional Japanese ghost story.
Yes.
And the artwork in that one is really neat too. I mean, it actually was a little bit nerve-wracking, and not super bad or anything, but for a cartoon show that aired, in the middle of the day, it was not bad. So I liked the artwork a lot, and like you said, a better description, like an oriental storybook that's moving and everything. It really sort of adheres well to the concept of, Samurai Jack itself. It was a very good choice for the style of artwork. I liked it a lot.
And because you're focused on the artwork, I have to say, a lot of shows, and now I'm putting on my director's eyeglasses right now. When you look at the very first pilot episode, yeah? And if you guys seen the behind the scenes, if you haven't, you can watch it on YouTube. They talk about the action choreography in the series throughout. But in the first episode, there's a particular scene where he has to fight this horde of metal bugs, and the choreography with the animation, and even though this is outside the animation, the fight choreography of the sword swings, or the movements he uses, and I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. And because as a story element, they can't use blood, so it's set in the future. They fight robots, and when he slices them, there's a lot of oil splattered, and you could easily see they're using that as a standing for blood. It's awesome, and it has the perfect. You know what they're doing, and it has the perfect effect. It works really well. And honestly, it adds to the. I mean, I'll put a picture on the screen if I can. It's just a final scene where he's destroyed all these robots. He's covered in oil, and you could just imagine a war scene. And again, I remember when I think I saw it back in there, I thought this was corny as hell. But watching it now, it was cool as shit.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I remember before it aired, and they were used for the commercial, the oil splattering and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just watching it. I was like, man, really? But then when I was watching it, I was like, okay, it's not too bad.
Exactly. You just summed up what I just said there. So consistently through all. Actually, I will say this: the animation jumped up as it would in the last 2 seasons. Like season 1 and 2, it's still good, but it's season 3 and 4. And guys, one of my negatives, which I can't really put against the show, is that it still hasn't been remastered in HD. I have to say, guys, if you've got a tablet, like an 8-inch tablet, and you watch it in 4:3 because it's not widescreen, it's still the old square format with the bars on the black hand side. If you watch it on a smaller screen, it looks fucking gorgeous, man. I cannot wait. They need to hurry up and remaster this, and I really hope after they bring out this finale, this last season, they just repackage the whole thing, digitally remaster everything, because even at its old school, whatever they call it, standard definition version, it looks gorgeous on a small tablet. And honestly, I watch it on my big screen. The 42-inch was okay. If you watch it on the smaller screen where you compact the pixels and you get the best quality version, I know we're going on and on about the animation, but honestly, it was the best viewing experience for me.
Oh, really? I watched it on my TV, and I was watching it, and I was like, okay, but maybe I should have watched it on a tablet instead.
Yeah, I watched it on both, but I noticed the difference coming from the TV to the tablet. TV, tablet. Check it out on your tablet. I think you will see. I'll probably put a link down for you guys. If you want to watch an action montage, because someone saw it on YouTube, check it out on the smaller screen, and that's what I think it would be like in HD. But I think we've gone on long enough about how good we love the animation. Let's move on to the next element.
So then I guess one of the other things I brought up, which I was really paying attention to, because it's one of the things I loved about the show, and I remembered, was the voice acting.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the voice acting, I'm going to come out and say this, to this day, animation-wise, there's only a few other titles out of anything, any kind of animation from any country, blah, 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 that has this level of voice acting. Maybe like Cowboy Bebop, for example, and a couple other things I can't think of off the top of my head, but this voice acting is on that level, that highest echelon. And it's because the voice actor of Aku, which I'll touch on this towards the end about what I like the most, but the voice actor for Aku, to me, really makes the show. I mean, you're talking about how you're watching the show and there's not a lot of talking, everything. When this guy's when he's on the screen, there's a lot of personality, and it helps carry the show. I mean, his voice acting, fantastic. And so was Samurai Jack's voice actor, but the character himself is not so talkative. Sure. He's a very stoic character, whereas Aku's the opposite. He's very over the top, very talky, very comical.
100%. His personality, you know what? He is a comedic villain, but I don't want to say that because he's funny. I don't want to say he's a comedic villain, but he's a very humorous character. His voice, cool. Let me tell you something. He narrates the opening every single time, and I never skip it because he's so funny. This fool, I sent him to the past. Now my word is law. I am Aku. I mean,
it was all funny. I was talking to some people on Ventrilo, and I don't know how it came up, but we were talking about Samurai Jack. I was like, who I really like was Aku, and like blah blah blah, and like. I started reciting. I was like, I tore open a portal, and everybody started laughing.
Yeah, because it honestly fantastic. And obviously, we have to pay respect. I think he passed away about 3 or 4 years ago. And for the new series, they recast someone. And I love the fact Gendy Tartakovsky said he was thinking about altering his voice, but that character is so iconic, that voice is so iconic, that he ended up just getting a voice alike. And, I really respect that decision, and I'm glad he did that, because honestly, if they changed the voice for this last season, I think it would have been one of the biggest they ever could have made. So, But yeah, I can't remember the dude's name right now. I know he's a very old Asian dude. I know he's actually a very well known actor. I can't remember what he's in. But
I don't know his actual name, but his nickname is Mako.
Yes, that's right, correct. And he's actually a very well voiced actor, but he passed away, and it hurt everyone. They wanted him back for the last season, but he was a very old man anyway. So, but yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Criticism with the show is not the voice acting per se. Like, I would agree with you, but the only reason that I would dispute what you're saying is because it's just one guy, and his voice is phenomenal. Do not get me wrong, but other than him, Jack doesn't speak much, and the other characters are just random. They come and go, very episodic. So
yeah, but I mean, to me though, like, I was paying attention to this a lot. Like, the bit parts and everything, you can have bad bit parts, like the original dub of Berserk. Those are not good bit part actors. Or you can have like Samurai Jack's, where it still is good. It's not like on the level of Mako, but they're bit parts.
Sure.
And then Samurai Jack himself, not a bad voice actor. He doesn't talk a lot, but I was paying attention throughout the entire run, like, how is his voice acting? I think it was good. You know what I mean?
It was. And by the way, the funniest shit is the voice actor for Samurai Jack. He says this was the best job he ever got because he says the least lines of. Even he does the speaking and the guest voices, the people that come on for one episode. He said this is the best job I ever had. And if you see the interview, he said it every single interview. This is the best job I ever had. And he's a black dude, and he puts on such a great voice. And he's another well-known anime voice actor as well, which I didn't even know till after the fact. But yeah, both of them. I'm not disagreeing with you that both of them are high caliber, but again, Aku carries the show, and it's just one guy. So the rest of the cast, some of them are Cartoon Network regulars, and a lot of them are kind of childish or just funny, weird voices. We'll get more into that when we talk about the episodic nature and the characters and stuff like that. But great cast, great voice acting on the whole, but I don't know if I'll call it stupendous just because there's only one character we can lay everything on, and he's great, but he's great. I'm not disagreeing with you. I would just say that the cast on the whole is great because of him only.
No, it's like I said, I wasn't saying it was just him only, so we're gonna disagree on that.
Okay, well, we'll just agree to disagree, but the cast is good. I didn't disagree with you there, but
Okay. So let's see. I said.
Well, actually, before you go, since we're already on voice acting, we can talk about actually the music. Now, this is a show that uses understated background, and it's very appropriate. It's a samurai story. You do not need any loud blazing background music. Again, the opening theme is done by will.i.am for Black Eyed Peas, another guy, which is really cool because he's will.i.am, love him or hate him now. He's a very good producer. He knows how to make a catchy beat, and the Samurai Jack opening theme song is fucking catchy, whether you hate to admit it or not.
I did not know he made that.
Yeah, isn't it? will.i.am in Ink. will.i.am, that's his voice. Jack, Samurai, that's his voice.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, music. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of it. There's some like where Jack is naked episode where they try to make their own stuff, and it's pretty catchy and neat, and it's not like super overbearing or out of place. So I think they take the approach less is more. They
don't use a lot. Like there was one episode called Jack and the Rave where he goes to a club, and there's a lot of obviously techno music, but it's a very understated show. It pays homage. It's doing what it needs to do for the show, for the style they're going for, and it uses sound with the animation to tell the story, and it works pretty well. But actually, I forgot to mention this. Jumping back to the animation for a moment, because this is actually one element that I would think they overuse, and I had to really listen to the interviews behind the scenes, because this show uses a particular stylized element a lot. And I'm talking about the split screening.
I was going to say, are you talking about the split screens?
Yeah,
they use it a lot.
A head of a lot. Now, I have to say, this was another thing back in the day that kind of annoyed me, but I have to say, man, they use it like a lot. But I have to say, man, even though they use it a lot, it's bordering on the line of too much, but the fact is, it's the show's signature style, and it works. It really does create tense moments. They use it for tension, they use it for cool factor, they use it for dynamic angles and stuff like that. There's a whole episode, I think, where they use Jack just being like a shadow, like a ninja. So they use the split screen to zoom upon his eyes. it's used in blaxploitation, a lot of old cinema. But even though they use it a lot, to be honest with you, it becomes a signature part of the show style. And honestly, it never got corny because I actually thought I'm gonna get tired of this. But after the whole four seasons, I actually thought, you know what? I'm used to it. It works, and it's just part of the show. It's another character in the show, and it works perfectly. I think honestly, this could have gone wrong. I honestly think this overuse of this could have gone wrong, but they did it. They just did it in the way where it works. They balanced it all out.
To put it in simpler terms, they didn't Zack Snyder it.
Exactly. Or they didn't J.J. Abrams it with the fucking, he uses them, what do they call them? The lights things. What do they call it again?
Lights?
It's like these, I can't remember. He always does some lights that they're like blinding you in every single J.J. Abrams movie, those lights.
Like flares?
Flares, that's it. Flares, yes, flares.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen a whole lot of J.J. Abrams, so...
You also.
Sorry.
But that's what he's known for. Them light flares, too much light flares. But like I said, it could have been an overused gimmick. But honestly, it's done. The slipstream is done a lot, but it's part of the style with the animation. They use it wisely. It's not just one style. It's vertical. It's horizontal. It's both. It's done with colors and stuff like that.
Done for replays. It's done to progress the action scene. It's done to show different things happening at once. Yeah. They use it right.
Yeah, so animation, sound, and now we really have to get to the story. Now,
the story. Oh man,
yeah.
This was my main concern going back into this because Samurai Jack is episodic, and while there is some progression from beginning to end in the storyline itself, one of the big problems is the story didn't conclude by the time it ended. And you were talking about how Mako passed away. He did not pass away a few years ago. He passed away in the middle of the fourth season. That's why Aku stops appearing in the fourth season, is because he passed away during the fourth season.
Thank you for correcting me, number one. Again, guys, I apologize. I'm not the Samurai Jack super fan, so I'm glad old boy put me in check there. And you know what? Damn. All right. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, so they were really in a loop, but that's kind of why the fourth season is the way it is. It's like more than half the episodes are missing Aku, and we all agree up to that point, Aku kind of carries the show. So, that was a big problem they had. So, knowing that, going backwards and trying to rewatch it, I was very keen on watching the storyline. And episodically, something to watch casually, I think it's still a great thing, especially of young boys. You got like kids 8 to maybe 14 or something. This is a good show to watch with them. But as a 30-year-old cat, going back into this and rewatching it, I kind of crave more of a linear storyline, a progressive storyline, something where, there are parts of it like where he has a friend, the Scotsman, who appears in every season. That's kind of cool and everything, but in the end, from beginning episode 1 to the final episode in the original run, ultimately Jack learns some stuff, and he changes a little bit as a character, but not a whole lot made in that respect. So the storyline kind of does pull it down for me at this point in my life.
Well, let's get more into that, because my negatives do start with the story. But to be fair, let me start with my negatives. I'll turn around on these people, so don't just kill me before I say this. Again, pretty much like you said, samurai stories, I guess, are meant to be simple. But from back in the day, one of the things I always heard about this show is that it uses a trope I do not like. This whole, I need to get back home, or, him trying to find a portal. Actually, this is one thing that really baffled me about the show, because as soon as Jack gets into the future and he realizes where he is and that he's in the future, the first thing he says is, I need to find a portal back home. And this is the kind of thing where it's like, you're telling the audience what needs to happen. How does Jack know that he can even get a portal back home? And listen to me, he didn't say, I need to beat Aku so I can go back home. He would always say, I need to find a portal back home. Like he already knew there would be another portal in the world to go back home. Now, the reason why I bring this up is because in the series, there are like 3 or 4 episodes where he almost finds a portal home, and then, Aku fucks him up. And they use it again and again. And my sister used to love Samurai Jack, and whenever, not even my sister, some other fans would watch it and be like, oh my God, when's it going to happen? Oh, it was so close. And that was another thing I used to kiss my teeth at. Like, you see, this is the kind of story element I don't like. You dangle this fruit in front of me but you know he's never really going to do it. And it's the kind of thing I would wonder if they just didn't put that element in, that the portal. Beating Aku could have been enough. I need to get revenge on Aku, and then at the end, maybe we'll get a portal home. But when they put it right in the beginning that I need to find a portal home, I need to find a way to get back home, and then they cock tease you with that throughout the series, honestly, it was a gimmick. I already knew it was there on rewatching it, and I thought to myself, I wish they didn't put that in here because it's very cheap. It annoys a lot of the fans. To the show's credit, they only do it in the season, the whole 4-season run, they only did it 5 times. My count was 5 times where they really cock tease you with that. Because they knew this is something that could really upset fans if they keep on doing it. I mean, the biggest one they did was, I think it was this 3rd season where there's a guy guarding a portal. And he says, I can't let you win. And they have a big battle. And then obviously...
he actually beats Jack.
Yeah, he beats Jack and he gets something to send Jack away. And then at the end, it's like, not now, Jack. Your time is soon. So it's kind of like they're showing you that, is this the end? Have we already seen it? And you kind of know that was one of the biggest cock teases. That why would you do that? It wasn't even the fact that was the portal home, but that you got a glimpse of him in the future, which is even a bigger cock tease. It's not a very good. Honestly, I think the show might have been stronger without that cock tease at all. I really do, and it was a bit of a negative for me.
I won't disagree with you. I mean, that's something that always kind of worried me going back. It didn't bother me that much because, like you said, they only did it a handful of times. Actually, a couple of times were some of the more funnier parts, like when Aku was jerking the portal away from him. Yeah. But my main problem with that wasn't actually that, when you pointed it out, now I noticed it, but the portals exist and everything. Why didn't Aku just blow him up as soon as he knew Jack was back? I mean, that's like, duh.
Yeah, he waits for Jack to find them, and then he blows them in front of him. It's like, so if Jack didn't find him, you didn't know they exist. It's very contrived. It's very simple. I know we're on Cartoon Network, so they don't want it to be too highbrow, too complicated. And I understand these guys that are writing the show, they could have written something more complicated, but it's Cartoon Network. They have to keep it simple. I honestly just thought the show would have been better without it.
Honestly, I think there isn't a problem with having it, but if it had came later on and it had initially been, like you said, I just needed to defeat Aku, and then later on that possibility showed up, like in season 2 or 3 or something, then I would have been like, okay, whatever. But like I said, it's not like Aku doesn't know these portals exist. Why doesn't he just destroy them? It's kind of a big plot hole to me.
It is, and again, it's one of them things that I understand from a writing perspective. It's a cheap way to draw people in. It's a very cheap way to draw people in. And for Aku, it doesn't make sense. But maybe if you're young, you're not really thinking about it. But you do it a couple times, you start asking yourself these questions. But anyway, again, it's a very simple story. And that was another thing. I think, a bit of spoilers here. One of the things they didn't do in the show until later was this whole thing with the sword. Like, this sword is the only thing that could beat Aku. And I thought, okay, that's cool. I was waiting for them to explain it. Part of me respected the fact it wasn't a super magical sword. Like, there was so many times where Jack was surrounded by enemies, and I just thought, why can't that sword just be like, shoot some laser beam or something? But through the whole show, literally, the only magical thing about the sword, there's only 2 magical things. There's one time where Jack kind of telekinetically gets the sword to his hand, but that's just like a one-off. And the other thing is that it can literally harm Aku. Other than that, it doesn't show any supernatural laser abilities. And then later, when you find out that Aku and the swords are basically... Aku himself is an alien demon. The prelude to the story shows that this was some kind of intergalactic space evil that landed on Earth. And then these beings gave Jack's dad the power to beat Aku. So it's kind of alien.
No, hold on. Not before those jackasses gave him the potion to wake up Aku. Because Aku was just going to sit there being like a dried piece of pine tree or whatever until he poured that potion on him.
Oh, yeah, that's funny. Thank you. I remember saying, thank you for freeing me.
That was fucking hilarious. But I would actually argue, too, the sword seems to be unbreakable. I will come out and tell you that samurai sword's not the most durable thing in the world. This is one of the things that bothers me, actually, about The Walking Dead. In any movie or TV series where somebody's running around with a katana, these are not super durable weapons. They are known for breaking by samurai warriors back in the ancient days. in warfare in the middle of a battlefield because they got it stuck in somebody's armor or they hit somebody's bone or something. Like, these swords break. And Jack's sword is super durable. So I would actually say that is a superpower of it. I mean, it's a cartoon and everything, but still.
That's true. To even beat Aku, it has to be. There's only one other time where the sword shows some... It's not technically the sword. There's one episode where Aku makes these robots that Jack's sword can't even beat because Jack doesn't have enough strength to cut them, so he has to get some kind of robot inventor to build him like this armor to swing the sword. Now, long story short, by the end of the episode, Jack's armor kind of breaks, and he has to beat this one unbreakable robot. And what he does is he kind of prays, Jack prays, and then the screen goes up to the sky, and then you see these swordsmen, artisans giving him a power boost. It's very weird, and it just comes out of nowhere. And I liked it because I thought it was building up a mythology to the sword because...
Well, it doesn't come out of nowhere because I think that's the season where they established the sword was actually crafted from virtue. They took all the virtue from Jack's father and they made the sword. So it kind of ties into that, but it is a little supernatural. I mean...
Yeah, that's the only time, but throughout the whole show, there's so many times he's overwhelmed. There's no other cheating kind of superpower. There's nothing really. And I like that. I love the fact that with the fighting, it's Jack and the sword and his perseverance for the most part. Unless he has help, outside help, literally it's him sword fighting and his will, which is really awesome, and the power of virtue or his heart or whatever, which isn't even corny. It's just really good. And they don't ever do it in a corny way. And again, just wrapping up the story, it didn't end. I already knew that. But when it ended, it was fine. It was okay for a 4-season show. Yeah, the episodes I didn't like. I think how many episodes in total? I think it's about 52 episodes in total. Of course, it's 52. That's
these are OG seasons, not that 8-episode bullshit or whatever.
What do you mean?
Like how a long time ago, before many of our listeners were of age to even paying attention to this shit, a season on television used to be 20+ episodes.
Oh yeah. But for an animated show, you hardly ever get that budget.
No, you get like high teens.
Yeah,
for an animated show.
Yeah. Out of the 52 episodes, honestly, I only disliked 8. And if 8 are just some kiddie episodes, there was one episode we turned to a chicken. There was another episode where he was part of the mafia. Some of these throwaway, funny cards, I was like, they don't really pay much attention to the storyline. But honestly, for me to say that's like 90% of the show. And they said before, and I would also criticize them for saying they wanted to make a show that was style over substance, but they wanted the story to be simple. And honestly, they accomplished that goal in my opinion. And honestly, rewatching the show now, and I guess I'm kind of wrapping up my thoughts on the whole show in earnest. The show holds up very well. They came with a very unique idea. I didn't even know how much I loved the creator for doing Dexter's Lab and some of his other stuff, but this was a great... As an animator, I have to admire his creativity from Dexter's Laboratory to this, and just hearing his thought process and what he wanted to do and how successful the show was and the creative direction and the stories and the episodes. And I'm very critical, guys. You know how critical I am with anime and stuff. 8 episodes I didn't like out of a 52 episode show is fucking stupendous, man. And when I finished the show, I was like, wow, now I know why everybody loved it. I'm kind of glad I kind of disliked it, so I saved myself something to go back and watch. The only other criticism I have, which I'm glad I didn't forget, it's kind of minor. The sound effects got on my fucking nerves. And what I mean by that is they have cartoon sound effects in the show with characters coming, the classic stupid Looney Tunes things that people falling over. It's on Cartoon Network, so I can excuse it. Honestly, if you move those sound effects, and guys, you probably wouldn't notice it until now I brought it up. If you listen, they put a lot of cartoony sound effects in the show for levity, because it's a cartoon, unfortunately. We have to give it that distinction. That was my main quibble, which I nearly forgot. The stupid sound effects that showed you, okay, this is a cartoon, this isn't serious. If you remove those sound effects, for the most part, it would elevate the show a lot for me, and I hope they do that when they re-release it. They probably
Oh,
won't.
I believe they're going to with the 5th season, because they said the 5th season is supposed to be like super dark, but it's supposed to be more mature. So they are going to probably elevate it in seriousness.
Oh, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but I'm just wrapping up. The series on the whole holds up fantastically well. I don't think a lot of shows made in the late 90s, 2000s hold up as well as this one does, and that's because they came with the idea of making a very stylized show with a very unique concept that audiences will like. And honestly, even though I complained about the sound effects and some of the episodes I didn't like, they made a show that caters to most ages and still found a way to make it pretty cool as fuck. You know, sorry for the terminology, but me watching it now, 32-year-old man, I still think this show holds up for its story, for the sums of its parts, and even the lesser things, the things I dislike the most, are so minor. The good things swallow up the bad things, and as a rating for the show, it's a very easy first class for me.
To me, this is a solid B, because like I'm more of a story-driven kind of guy. I want to experience a good story and everything. And the story isn't terrible, but it's like I said, I mean, there's some plot holes that are kind of impossible for me to ignore, like, oh shit, Jack is here. Time to destroy all the time portals. You know, stuff like that. Yeah. But it's still, I enjoy it. If I had kids of my own, I'd have no problem with them watching it. I would probably, I mean, like I said, when it aired, I watched it with my parents. It appeals to everybody of all ages. You know, there's no age limit to Jack. It's enjoyable by all. And the problems I have with it, I mean, it doesn't stop me from enjoying it, but I would love it if it had like a linear storyline. I would love it if he wasn't always just fighting robots, you know, like he actually killed living things sometimes.
I want to talk about that as well, but go on, yeah.
Like minor stuff like that. So like for when it came out, you know, compared to all those other cartoons and stuff that were airing around the time, yeah, I could see it being a first class, but like compared to everything I've ever experienced, it's more like a definition of a solid B. 90% great. I mean, that's probably more towards first class, like you rated it, but yeah, it's still, there's some stuff that keep it off the highest level for me of a story.
Let me ask you, if this last season comes out and wraps up the story, would that elevate what happened before, or do you think would you not put that together? Would you separate? Would that fix the whole show, or does that still separate the first four from this last season to you? Well, I don't know. Maybe you can't answer that because you ain't seen it yet, but just your thoughts on that now.
Well, truly, I cannot answer that because I've not seen it, as you stated. But I do have philosophies about this, and to me, a good story has a good ending. All this other stuff where it's kind of episodic, if they did it right and they gave it a storyline that tied everything kind of together and packaged it up and gave it a fantastic ending or whatever, yeah, it can handle all that. I could be like next time when we're talking about the end of season 5 after it's aired and everything, and if they did a really good job, I'd be like, this ending is what I was always looking for. So even though that was a problem I had with the first 4 seasons, this is part of that story, and it ends that story. It covers that problem. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and in saying that, and I have a lot of faith in the writers, if they fuck up this ending or make it lame, then I guess that could have the opposite effect too, I guess.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, there are way more stories where the ending is so bad it just either knocks it down a notch or it completely torpedoes the story to me. Because, like I said, a good story needs a good ending.
What I would love is if when this series comes out, and praying that it's great, they go back, reanimate, you know, just update the graphics on the old show, you know, get rid of those stupid cartoon bits and maybe even trim some of the fat and bring out this ultimate darker Jack edition. I know it's a fantasy, it's probably never going to happen, but just for the adults, if they did that, and if this show became even, you know what, this might happen in 10, 20 years, it could become a cult hit, they might even redo it and make a darker version, I guess.
You want a Berserk Samurai Jack?
Nah,
you want samurai guts.
No, you sound like, you know, you were the one that just said you wanted more violence for killing people. I didn't even say that. You said that.
No, I said that was a minor quibble of mine, is that he only ever fought robots.
No, I kind of agree, but, and actually I didn't mention this, so I do want to wrap this up, but I do want to say, when I found out that Aku not only took over the world, but apparently you know, he's kind of known in the galaxy, and the Earth becomes this whole trading place with aliens coming to Earth as well. I like that, and it actually made more sense. And there was a few non-robot enemies Jack killed, but they just blew up or they just disappeared. It happened. I noticed it. I took note of it a few times. I think there was like a squid guy. He sliced in half, but you never saw him die. He just sliced and then they just move off the panel and stuff like that. So it worked for me. This whole, honestly, the concept of him being in the future, being a samurai in the future, which is again a fish out of water story, I actually thought it was going to be silly, and again, killing robots at the time would get boring, but they made it fun. They made it funny. They used enough variation, and they went under the sea, and I think there was an episode where he tried to go to space. They were pushing it sometimes, but overall, I like the concept. I actually thought a samurai in the future was an interesting concept. It didn't bore me, and the robot blood and the oil didn't bother me as much as I thought it would, and I'm very critical now, so I was surprised. To be honest with you, if he was killing people, it would be a different show to me.
Oh, no, totally. But, I mean, there's so many enemies and so many blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
You know, at some point, you can't just be killing robots.
Yeah.
It's like I said, it's a minor thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand. You're the one that's like, I want samurai guts. I was like, I just wanted to fight more than robots sometimes.
No. I didn't say that.
You're just talking about how you want a super dark storyline where he was wronged in the past and he had his arm cut off and the woman he loved was, you know, brutalized in front of him and stuff, and he's out for revenge.
Just cut away the stupid comical cartoon noises. Cut away some of the silly kiddie episodes. You know what? Even saying that, there was one episode I liked, and it was one of the kiddiest episodes of all, and I loved it. Why? Because it was only about Aku. Aku was reading stories about Jack because he knew everyone hates him. I'm gonna read you stories about how I'm the good guy, and he read all these kids all these silly stories about how Jack is a villain, and the kids didn't like him. That was funny, and it was a very childish episode, and I liked the episode.
It was actually pretty retarded, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
Talk about a backhanded compliment. It was pretty retarded.
It was pretty dumb, but it was entertaining.
It was dumb, but that's him. That's Mako showing his full voice range. He was so animated and funny. It was one of his. I think that was one of his best episodes to show Aku being a clown.
Yeah, oh, totally, dude. I mean, that's one of the best showcases he had in the show.
So anyway, guys, before we wrap this up, there's a couple of other side notes I do want to mention. First of all, oh boy, did you know there was a Samurai Jack video game?
Does he have like a prosthetic arm where he can shoot cannonballs out of it?
You really want to speak about Berserk, don't you? We'll talk about the new Berserk. Don't worry if that's what you want so bad. Stop bringing that shit up.
Oh god, don't even get me. I haven't watched any of the new Berserk shit yet, so let's not start down that.
We will, but anyway, no. To answer your question, no. Man, this game was a complete flop.
Really?
It's got terrible reviews. It was made 2 years after the series ended, I believe. And it was made in 3D.
3D? Oh, see, that's the thing. Like, when you first said that, that was a head scratcher to me, because you watched the show and you're like, this would be perfect as a 2D video game.
It would be. And nowadays, if you notice nowadays, there's doing a lot of retro 2D stuff. 2D is cool again. But this game came out in the PlayStation 2 era where everyone was trying to perfect 3D. All these games were trying to... They even put Mega Man in fucking 3D. Mega Man 7, Mega Man X7. Terrible game. Keep Mega Man in 2D, and they went back and did that again. So this was another example of them just trying to cater to the times, and they were trying to do something... no, I was going to say they were trying to do something fresh, but no, they were just doing what everyone else was doing, and it turned out to be a complete flop. The only redeeming parts of the game is it had the original voice cast, it had a really good original soundtrack, but the story was garbage. It was a side story. It was very repetitive. Guys, if you want to check it out, I'll put a link in the top right hand corner. You can check this review. I think was it the Games Room HD guys did the review for it. It was on GameCube and PlayStation 2. Complete flop. The fans were disgusted, were disappointed. They wanted more Samurai Jack, and when they didn't get that in the series or a movie, they wanted a video game, which honestly would have been fun for the fans. And what did they get? They got garbage, which is a kick in the teeth.
You know, actually, before we move on, because I'm sure there's something else we want to talk about, video game storytelling, I think, could be a very fantastic way to tell a story.
True.
And it could have been a great way to end Samurai Jack if they had just actually said, you know what, instead of a movie, let's make an interactive thing for our fans and do it in a video game.
Nowadays, that's more viable because you know storytelling in games is a much more it's so doable now. People love watching shit. Me and you, I watched The Last of Us. I watched the whole story online because it was such a great story. People even complain there's too much story in video games now and not enough games. So you're right.
I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not a big gamer, so I enjoy the games.
Yeah.
Like Telltale games, Walking Dead. I got the Game of Thrones one they did. I haven't played it yet though, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, more story because nowadays the games and the story are. Sometimes the story is even more important than the game to some developers. Samurai Jack could have benefited from that, but at that time when this game came out, that never would have happened. Never.
No, people were still like, oh, video games, you go do your homework.
Yeah, not just that, but it's all about 3D. Let's make 3D awesome. 3D is awesome no matter what, but graphics. That was the forefront. The gameplay was second, but anyway, apart from that, yeah, the game was shit, guys. Everyone hates it. Apart from that, there was also actually the Samurai Jack comic just ended 2 years ago or last year, whatever. And again, it was done not by Gendy Tartakovsky. It was done by one of the assistant art directors. It's a side story. It is set after the series. The animation is as good as the series. Again, in the comic platform, it's not on par as the series. Obviously, it's fine. It looks the same art style. It's fine. They can't develop the story because it's not really canon. It's just a side story. Although you do get one or two glimpses of Jack when he's older that we've already seen in this new series coming as well. So I thought it was okay. It's short. I think there's 5 issues or something or whatever. You can just read it. It's fine. But it was a lead up to this. And now let's finish this up by talking about this new series coming up and what we think about it and what we hope will happen and all that stuff, which is, I guess, is rather short. And guys, if you don't know, apparently, and again, we won't know till we see it, but the details have come up about this mini series they're calling it. It's only going to be 10 episodes. It's going to be a linear storyline to finish off this final adventure for Jack, him versus Aku. Apparently, a lot has changed. Apparently, there's a lot of dark elements to Jack. He's done some things apparently that are not very good, which is definitely a bit curious. It's meant to be set 40 years in the future, which is a bit harsh, but I'll get into. That's interesting for me.
That's interesting because they state very clearly in the series that he is 25 years old, so that would make him 65 years old.
Yeah, I know. To be honest, I heard it's more than 40. I said 40 because I heard 60.
Oh, he'd be super old then.
I know, and I just think that is a very harsh. If he's going to be stuck in the future for his whole life, I think that's but that already sounds very devastating to me. But anyway, the things I've heard about the series, darker tone, the animation's a little bit updated. They wanted to keep it in line with the old series, but because they're using digital, they've enhanced some things. It's going to be a lot more darker. It's going to be on Adult Swim, the adult block for Cartoon Network stuff. So it looks like everything I said I wanted from Samurai Jack that I didn't even know I wanted is going to be in this new series. And obviously, Gendy Tartakovsky's very happy about it. They finished it. It's about to air in about a month, which is why I wanted to get this podcast out first. My feeling for this series is this guy's a very good writer. If he's going to elevate the show, I'm hopeful and confident he can do it right. And apparently, he's had this ending for the last 10 years. He's already knew how it's going to end for a while. And in a series, not even like a movie, he's had even more time. Like if it was a movie, hour and a half, 2 hours at best, it might have been rushed. But with a series of 10 episodes, I don't know how long the episode, it could be 40 minutes, I don't know. I'm sure they're going to be 25, but I'm hopeful and positive we're going to get a very good ending to the show. My only quibble is, if the tone is so different, on the whole, it might not really match the 4 seasons they had before. And if they're going to jump 4 years, it's going to be so old. I don't know. Maybe the tonal shift is too dark. So that's really my worry.
Okay. Well, I mean, when I look forward at that, like initially when I heard there was going to be a 5th season, like before I knew any information, knowing that Mako had died, the first concern was, what are they going to do about Aku? So when I heard Jack had done some bad things, blah, 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 the first thing that came to mind was, is this a future where Jack had killed Aku and therefore killed his only way to get back home? That was actually my original thought for this, but no, it's not really a spoiler. Aku is still alive. Okay, so that's not a worry. But a lot of the things you're saying, I'm less concerned about because the nature of the first 4 seasons is it appeals to people of any age category. And I think they're still going to try to do that with the fifth one. So it'll be darker and more serious, but I don't think it'll be like young adult. You know what I mean? I think it'll be like Samurai Jack is probably intended for ages 10 to 14-ish, and this is probably going to be more like 18 to 21, but without the stuff that keeps it from being viewable to kids in high school.
Okay.
You know, that would be my guess. So that's why I'm not as concerned about it. There's a lot of speculation. They have not really revealed anything in concrete. I mean, even the nature of 10 episodes being 22 minutes versus like 50, there's a big difference in content there, and storytelling ability and methods, things that are available to the people actually producing this. So, I mean, with so much blank stuff, it's a little hard. What do I hope for? I mean, they already stated they're going to do a linear storyline. I want a storyline that wraps up everything else, that gives Samurai Jack an actual ending, because the first 4 seasons didn't give him an ending. And I don't really have a whole lot else to expect from it. I mean, they had great action in the previous seasons. If they want to make it a little bit more serious, I don't see why the action would change a whole lot, other than just being maybe there's more... like when you're watching the first 4 seasons, do you ever feel like Jack is super in trouble no matter how bad it gets?
Once or twice I did.
Like, there's once or twice where it looks like, oh shit, this shit's going down. But you know, in the end, Jack is still around. Okay, so in this other series, maybe more at risk. Like, you know, he lives in the future where there's a lot of cyborgs and stuff. Maybe he might actually lose some limbs or something. I mean, if he's been going at this for 40 years plus, whatever happened in the first 4 seasons, he's a great swordsman. He's got quick reflexes, quick wit, everything. He's very sharp skills, but that stuff is going to wear on you after 40 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So those are the kind of things I would be looking for. I mean, more than anything, I just want to go into it without any expectations and be very satisfied. That's what I'm hoping for.
Sure. There's only one big thing. I hope he doesn't pull one story element. When they said he's 60, for him to get back home, you know, I kind of got a feeling they're going to do a time reset at the end of the series. I don't know why. I have a strong feeling that when it's all over, he's going to go back to his young self and meet his mum and dad again and get to relive his life the way it should have been. I just have a feeling it's going to end up that way. I don't know if that's too corny, but it seems kind of like it's because he's pining for home, he's pining for his parents, he's pining to go back to his past. It would be more adult if he didn't. If he just beat Aku and he had to live with his life in the future that was tormented.
Okay, so here's my what would you call this?
Dream ending? No.
Here's my puzzle to you then. So you're saying you expect him to be able to go back in time, maybe at the end of it, go back in time and relive his life from his childhood on, and not have to do all that training, blah, blah, blah. Just be a kid, grow up, be the emperor's son, rule over his country. That's what you're saying, right?
If he didn't, let me tell you something. If he didn't age so much in this future series, he could have just gone back as his adult self. Even if it was, honestly, once it went past 20 years, I'm like, if he goes back as an old man and he's older than his dad when his mum's there, that wouldn't bother me. Look, if he went back as a kid and he was young again, he had all his memories, that's stupid. If he, that is just dumb.
Okay, so, but that's kind of what you think is going to happen, though, is he's going to go back as a kid.
It might happen, and I don't want it to happen. Because ultimately, he's been saying from the beginning, I want to go back home. So ultimately, the way I see it, one way or another, if he doesn't go back home, that ending would be too dark. I think a lot of people will be disappointed if he never ends up going back home to his own time to say goodbye to his mum and dad or to save his people like he wants to do. If that doesn't happen, people will be upset on the whole. So how they implement him going back in time, which ultimately I think is 75% is going to happen, how they handle that is the part that worries me the most.
Okay, so back to the puzzle, though. To elevate this story to a more serious level, you're saying, even though you don't expect it and you know there are a lot of people going to be upset.
Yeah.
If the ending was him vanquishing Aku, and let's say vanquishing Aku makes it so he can't go back in time ever again.
Yeah.
then that would be the ending you prefer.
It would be a very mature ending, but it would be very dark, and it would be like, damn, you know.
It would be dark because that means up until that point, Aku has just destroyed the world and he's ruined people's lives and all this other shit. But it is, I can see what you're saying, and honestly, I'm the kind of reader I am, the type of audience I fall into would lean more towards that. You know, it's like, does he get everything he wants? No. But he accomplishes the more important goal, which was to defeat his arch nemesis. I mean, technically, if he were to go back in time, undo everything, that literally means the entire show is pointless.
Yeah.
Like, it served no purpose. Like, it could have just been a dream of his. That's literally what it would happen.
My middle ground for this is that he beats. My middle ground is he beats Aku, but he did waste all of his years. But he does go back and stop the future. But he's lost his years, and he does get to see his parents. But basically, he just goes back to the past, and he ends up being like a sage. And his future the future he lived never existed, but he can't get his youth back. It's still bittersweet, but he still kind of wins and he kind of loses.
I would like that ending. I like it a lot.
Yeah. But I don't know. The thing that I know we're going into this whole hypothesis, guys. We're gonna wrap this up. The thing that questioned me is when they said he's done bad things. I have this feeling that he might already have a family. I don't know why. I have a feeling that we're gonna start the series and that he's settled down, but he's still on his revenge quest to kill Aku, and he's just become a very kind of grumpy kind of old man that's given up on his search. And I don't know. I have a feeling something like that's going on, because you can't stay in this world for 50 years or however fast they want to fast track it, and we're not just kind of give up or lose faith and just cashing his chips. So I don't know. I have a hypothesis they're going to do something like that. He's given up, he's settled in, and he's kind of just bitter.
A family. I think if he has a family, if they're going to do 40 years, he's already lost his family, and that's what makes him like super over the edge finally.
Yeah.
Because during the original run of Samurai Jack, he does struggle a few times with not achieving his goal, getting close but not achieving his goal like repeatedly, and you can tell it's starting to frustrate him. That's one of the things that actually progresses in the storyline is towards the end, he starts getting more frustrated about it.
Yeah.
So that is very possible. Something that I would expect to see in the 5th season is that he's not even trying to get back anymore. He just wants to kill Aku, I think.
After that long, honestly, there's no human on Earth that could live in a world with no family, no friends, constantly getting, as I said, dick teased about going home all these years. Aku keeps on fucking with you. It's like he would lose his fucking mind. And that one image that I'll put on the screen right now, where he's got the full beard, he's got the sword, he just looks tired and angry. We're hypothesizing, but yeah, man, it's gonna. Honestly, I'm excited to see the series. I really am, and I have faith in the guys. I always say, I have faith that he's written something really interesting. It's not on Cartoon Network, so it doesn't have to be too kiddie. He's gonna elevate it, make it more adult. And honestly, I think so far they've kept my faith. And 16 years later, so much has changed. He could have tweaked the story. I think we're gonna get something good. Ultimately.
I expect so too. I mean, a lot of Samurai Jack, even though it's kind of more upbeat and everything, it is actually a bit of an homage to black and white samurai films, and there are more lighthearted ones, and there's kind of more edgier, darker ones, and then there's like super dark ones. But I think they're gonna do that transition from the more happier ones to the more edgier ones, like for example, Yojimbo, classic. I love that film, by the way. But I think that's probably gonna be more towards where Gen D is going to aim the story around.
And the one thing he did say is that he's making this show for the fans that grew up, and those fans, us, we're older as well. So he wants to elevate the show to the right level for us, the people who watched it originally. So I got nothing but faith in the guy. The one thing I didn't mention, by the way, kind of backtracking here, but what are your favorite episodes of Samurai Jack? We got to end on that because I got two episodes I love.
I knew you were gonna bring this up, and there's so many I like. I mean, only 2.
2 or 3? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go for it.
2 episodes. There's one episode that was so good that I was like, once you've hit this climax, you kind of just ruined this fight between Aku and Jack. I think it's the second or first encounter. I think it's called Jack and the zombies.
Yeah, okay.
This is one of the first major fights that Aku and Jack have, and it is fan-fucking-tastic. Jack has to fight these zombies and Aku. Aku's transforming all over the place, and there's a great scene where Aku gets a sword and he's gonna stab Jack. I'm like, this is fucking awesome. And honestly, it's the kind of fight that could have ended the whole series. I mean, I was like, after this fight, you can't have another fight that's better than this. And they fight again, and the next fight they have is when Jack has to fight Aku, where he tells Aku he can't use any of his powers. That one was kind of silly. It was very silly, very lame. But going back to the Jack versus the zombies, him and Aku have a very good fight, very thorough. It's excellent. That's my second favorite episode, but my first favorite episode, from beginning to end. If you take this episode alone, I actually think this one episode, give this to the old me in 2001, would have converted me. Just the name alone and the way it was constructed from beginning to end. I believe, and I should have looked this up before, I believe it's called Samurai versus Ninja.
Okay, so you're talking about the episode where he flips his uniform inside out and he uses the light to blend in, and then I was going to pick that as one of my favorite because it's so stylistic and it fits in the samurai theme very strongly. Yeah,
Aku has created this little robot ninja, and you see him. You don't even notice it's not Jack. There's this. It's silent. This perfect opening scene where you see Jack sitting by like a fire and this ninja is trying to attack him, and he attacks him, and it's a practice dummy. It's a practice version of Jack, and then later this ninja goes after Jack. Honestly, I don't want to. There's no point in me raving how great this episode is, but just skipping to the fight alone, the fight with Jack and the ninja and the light and the dark, from an artistic level, from a fighting level, from a choreography level, everything about this is everything I love about the show. I think from an artistic level, it was everything they were trying to achieve with the show, from a storytelling perspective, from a cool factor, from every angle. I fucking love that episode. It's my favorite episode of animation. This episode I will take away and say this is my favorite episode of an animated series I've seen. It's like in my top 10 episodes of an anime show of all time, period.
Wow, that is super high.
Yeah, I loved it. I absolutely loved the episode. I would watch it again. I would watch the episode again regularly.
I really love that episode. It probably is my favorite Samurai Jack episode, but I don't have to pick it as my favorite since you picked it as yours. And
well, I'm glad that I picked a good one then. Thank you.
Yeah, you definitely did. I mean, this is actually, in terms of action too, this is like one of the only opponents he ever had that lasted more than a few seconds against him.
Yes,
so that's one of the things that actually made it a really cool episode as well. Oh, jeez. 52 episodes, my favorite. So I already mentioned the Jack and, I think it was Jack and the Ghost, or was it Jack in the Haunted House?
What happened in that one?
That's the one where he's trying to choose which path to go to at the very beginning, and he flips a stick, and Aku's a dickhead, and he makes the stick turn to the wrong path. So Jack goes through a field. He eventually comes across an old abandoned Japanese-style house.
Yeah. With the family.
Yeah.
With the family.
With the family that's acting kind of weird.
Yeah.
And I like that one a lot. Very artistic.
It was. Yeah. That's
in terms of the samurai theme as well in the future, fits it very well. I like that episode a lot. My favorite, I don't know, but it's up there.
Okay, I've got two more if you can't think of any that I liked.
Sure, go for it.
The funniest episode, which I didn't think it was, because this is one episode I liked even back in the day, was when he first meets the Scotsman. It was fucking hilarious. The Scotsman character is so funny. And when I watched it before, he kind of annoyed me. But they meet on the bridge where they can't even move. They have the funniest argument, the funniest battle. It's the funniest episode. Honestly, I love that Scotsman. And even the second episode where they save his wife is funny. The third episode was a bit of a letdown. It's when, why am I going on and on? Let's just stick to the first episode. That first episode where they meet on the bridge is a great one. And lastly, I'll just stop here because you've got to think of one after this. There's an episode where Jack has to go in this cave and he meets this, basically, to speed things up, he meets this undead warrior that he has to fight. And this undead warrior basically wants to be freed. It's really well done. It was a little bit corny at first, but they have an ongoing fight. The guy forces Jack to fight him, and Jack literally This is one of the episodes where Jack really has to kill him. He literally does kill the guy to set him free. And it was really well done. It was very kind of homage to the old samurai that set me free kind of thing. It was really cool. I like the episode as well.
I like those 2 episodes too. I mean, I was actually going to pick the Scotsman as well. Fuck. But yeah, I mean, the Scotsman, nice voice actor. It's funny because he's just such a stark contrast to the character of Jack himself.
Yeah. He's coming back in the new series. They did say that, which I'm really happy about. He's actually coming back.
It would not make sense because he's been in each season since. So why wouldn't he be in the 5th one? But what is that episode gonna be like? 2 60-year-old dudes are like fucking crusty as shit.
When you say that, then I realize that they can't have it just at the dark tone because he's a very comedic character. So they got that shows the levity that they're gonna have even in these last 10 episodes.
Well, I mean, you say that, but then so was Aku. Aku was not intentionally by his own character, but he was very comedic to the audience.
That's true.
So
that's true.
I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't rule it out.
Oh, that's a good argument. Anyway, we're gonna wrap this up. Have you found you know what? You can't love the show as much as me. You can't remember your favorite episodes. You liar.
I didn't watch it trying to find my favorite episodes, dude.
No, you said I picked the ones you would have picked anyway, so that's fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, if I have to actually pick one that was just like funny, it's probably one of the episodes you didn't like, but it was a neat adventure, a nice break from things, was Jack is Naked, where he's running around. It's like a very bright, colorful underworld he chases a kid into that stole his clothing and stuff. And it was fun. It had funny music, it had a funny theme. You actually see Jack outside of his normal outfit for once.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about just him being naked.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a neat one, but not my favorite. Probably my favorite would have been the Shinobi one, which you already pointed out.
That's fine. And you know what's funny? I looked on all top 10 lists. That Shinobi one's in everyone's top 10 list. It's really the highlight of I think it's the highlight of everything they want to do with the show in one great package.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that plus is what they're going to do with season 5 is my estimation.
I'm sure, because that's the pinnacle of I think what they were trying to do on every level. It's definitely style over substance because the story is very simple, but again, that's what they were going for. I'm glad I actually watched the interview because I would have criticized the show, but they were going for style over substance. And again, they did a good balance. 25% story, 75% style. In this context, it works perfectly. So I think that's it. We spoke about the Samurai Jack series for an hour. We will obviously be back to talk about the last run, this last 10 episode run, season 5. It's going to be interesting. I'm glad we got this all out there, guys. If you watch Samurai Jack, let us know what you think. Share your thoughts in the comments down below. Agree, disagree, any counterpoints or anything you don't think we touched. We're obviously open to hear what you guys think out there. And I know I'm going to get some flack about me hating in the past, but so many people flip-flop. I'm not even...
Why do they care so much about the past? I mean, look, you love it now, and that's what's important, right?
I do. I gave it a high rating than you, so there you go.
You did.
So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. If you're listening on iTunes, leave an iTunes review. It really helps us climb the rankings. If you're watching on YouTube, click those annotations on the right you see there for books, TV, anime shows, movie reviews, our podcast, as I mentioned before. Again, I want to thank my buddy the Katface Killah for joining me on this one. And we'll see you guys on the next Samurai Jack video, or just here on Planet Tyro on our usual uploads. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you on the next one.
See you around.
Peace.